So for those of you who haven't met me, my name's Michelle Fitzgerald. I'm a senior business consultant here at Nimbus. I've worked here on and off for nearly 20 years. I keep leaving and then coming back because I can't stay away. I love it that much. Also joining us today is Gail Murdoch, our general manager. So you'll be talking to her. You can see her there. And she'll be coming in a little bit later on. So today's session objective is pretty much just to show you how easy it is to use this product. Excuse me, it's convenient. It's right there on your phone. It's accurate, so it doesn't allow you to key in your timesheet twice, and it's absolutely ridiculously easy to use. And this is one of our philosophies moving forward with development that we undertake at Nimbus, is to make it smart and simple. So for today's agenda, I'm going to just take you through a couple of features of TimePortal, entering time for an individual. And then if you also have a situation in your organisation where you might have crews out in the field and you have a foreman running those crews, being able to enter time for an entire crew. Then there's the capacity to approve time and upsync that data to Nimbus before posting it to the jobs in Nimbus and committing that cost. If we have time at the end, I'd like to show you how to push data and upsync data to the time portal. And that relates to having the appropriate job numbers, employees, activity codes, and so on, so that that data is like for like. So that's briefly what we're going to cover off. So we'll hook into it. So just a little bit of an intro on TimePortal is that the whole point of it is just really timesheeting in the field. However, with TimePortal, you also have the capacity to capture natively plant that you might use in the field too. So if you're operating big machinery, you can record that at the same time. So TimePortal can be structured for individuals to use to record their own time and plant that they might have used, or for a supervisor to record time and plant for their whole crew. So there's those two main options at the start there, enter time and crew. Now this can be done on any mobile device, whether it be phone, tablet, or a laptop. For this demonstration though, we're doing it on a computer, so it's easier to display everything for people to see. So, and the TimePortal, this is a cloud-based in-range solution. Everything is responsive, and so the forms and tiles that we see here lay out nicely on a mobile phone. Okay. So just the starting point, depending on what type of access you have to the TimePortal, if you're someone entering your own time, you're probably likely, and someone else is approving your time, it's highly likely that the items on your screen would be the enter time, the submit, and the history, along with these tiles that show what time has been loaded this week, last week's time, and this week's time, but day by day. So you can see here that I've posted 8.5 hours time for myself on Monday, but I've only done 6 hours on the Tuesday. These other options like crew, approve, and admin are only available depending on your access to TimePortal. So we're going to start with just loading a basic time entry to a job. So we click on the enter time option. And here we've got our basic timesheet screen. So we've got our date here at the top. You can enter that in direct, or you can use the date picker. So I'm going to load my timesheet for yesterday. I can look up my job if I need to, if I don't know the job number, and you'll see here we've got the job number down the left. The name is actually the job description and the customer. So for example, if I know that my job is for KP Johnson, I can start filtering down to that customer and then choose the job that I'm working on. Here we have the labour activity code. Now this just keeps the code that you used last time, so it's highly likely you're going to be doing the same thing most of the time. So it's nice that it keeps a record of your activity code. If you happen to be changing, though, you can look up and see what's available, and these are all the activity codes available for time posting. So essentially, these are exactly the same as, and they're sourced from Nimbus. So you can't post stock or anything else by mistake. So I'm going to put down here that I'm just a plain old labourer today. If I was using plant, I can choose a plant item. So it might be here that I'm actually clearing out some site ready for some foundations or concrete to be poured. So I can put in my little description. And then here we've got start and end time. I was up pretty early yesterday morning, ready to go at 7 o'clock, and I worked till 4 because it's pretty hot in the afternoon. My boss only gave me a measly 30 minutes for lunch though, so I was a little bit upset about that. And I spent 2 hours on the Bobcat machine. So you can see here that I've got my time and the 2 hours I spent on the plant. Once I'm ready to submit that, I can click on a submit button. And you'll see now that the figures on these tiles have changed. I've got 8.5 hours entered in for Wednesday. I've got 8.5 hours here pending approval. So in this situation, I can approve my own time, but it's highly likely, depending on an individual organisational setup, that someone would enter their time and someone else would approve it. Just to show you, though, I can click on the approve option here, and you can see that there's time waiting for me to approve. And one of those options is this, my timesheet that I've entered for yesterday. So we'll cover that off in a little bit when I actually load a crew timesheet as well. If I wanted to, I don't have to enter plant. If I'm not using plant, it can just be a straight timesheet. Likewise, there might be travel time. So if you're working quite away from where your organisation is, you might charge travel time. And this can be done by using the travel time code. And in the same way that plant works, you can put down how long your travel time is. And it uses the appropriate code and the appropriate hours when you're posting it and committing it to the job in Nimbus. So really easy to use. Excuse me. So what I'll do here is I'll show you how to load a crew timesheet. So we click on the crew option. Now you'll see here that there's already been a crew timesheet loaded for this week, and that was on Monday. You'll see, for example, that this is just a time tile. So it doesn't say here that it is associated with any particular employee, just the job, the activity code, it's submitted in the hours. And that's deliberate. If we wanted to view all the individual that relates to that timesheet, we can click on here and we can see that that timesheet was applied to Daniel, Daryl, Al, and Lauren. So I'll show you how we get to that point. So I'm going to add a crew timesheet for yesterday. Choose my Wednesday. I'm going to leave the fact that they are working on the same job as builders. I'm going to put down that there was some travel time. So if I know the code, I can just type it in and move to the next field. Otherwise, I can use the lookup. Put in a little story of what was happening. And the hours, so 7 in the morning till 5 at night. Group pause can be a big day. And here is when I can put in the travel time. So if it takes an hour in total to go to and from the job, we can put an hour in there. In this instance, I'm not going to enter any plant, and I can submit that crew sheet. So now you see we've got our extra sheet here. Okay, once again, it doesn't have anybody's name, but we can see that it's there. So this is basically a time card that we then want to generate that time card for all the people in the crew. So I'm going to click on generate individual time here. A little bit bigger. So these are the people in my crew. I'm there myself. Now, I actually already loaded a timesheet for yesterday, so I'm certainly not going to try and put another one in. So this here, it gives you an opportunity to say if some people are absent. So I'm going to put down that I was actually absent from that job because I was away with another job, and that also Kerry wasn't there that day. So now I can generate those crew sheets and apply that time card to each of those crew. So here it says generated 4 crew sheets. Okay, exactly what I needed. So if I click and go back here, you'll see I've still got these time cards, but if I want to look at the individual time now, I can see that I've got an extra set of time for the 25th. So I can check down, and you'll see that what it's done is it's duplicated that time card for every person in my crew that wasn't ticked absent. Now, the cool thing about this is, for example, I can update Lauren's time, for example. It might have been that she had to leave a little bit early. So I can click and I can open her time and I can adjust that, say that she left an hour early, save that information, and then that adjusts just her time card, but the other 3 remain the same. Or it might be that actually she's not a builder either. She's not a qualified builder. She's an apprentice. So I can also change her activity code and save that. So as you can see, it's really, really easy to make changes to someone's time card, but yet it lets you create all those time cards in one hit. I think that's pretty cool. So if I click, I can go back to my main menu. And now when I go to the approve screen, you'll see there's some more time there for yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approve that time. So I can tick all of it if I think it's all relevant. I can add information in here if I want to and add a comment. If I need to, I can reject a timesheet. So that's really useful. So if I wanted to reject this timesheet here, all I need to do is update that, and I can actually reject that timesheet. And with any luck, my status will update. Now, there's a little bit of setup that can be done in the background on what actually gets sent. So how a user is an employee is notified of a rejected timesheet is they get an email. So they get an email from the approver. I think I didn't quite do that right. Saying that it's been rejected. Just try that again. I'm not sure if I don't think I was supposed to tick that, so excuse me. That. Okay. Apologies. As with every demo system, every now and then something doesn't work quite like you'd like it to. I thought it would tell me that the internal status had been rejected, but actually what it's done is it's removed that line completely from here. So that's okay. Anywho, so if I want to accept all and approve all this other time, I can tick them all, or I can just go through and tick the ones that I want to. I've got couple of hours there that I'll approve. And now when I go back here, and if I reload my page here, just bear with me a moment. We have actually got chorus out on the side of the road, so I've got to say I'm a little bit nervous about this in case they've killed out interweb. Right, okay, thankfully they haven't. So here you can see now that the item that was pending approval has now been approved. So it's updated the approval of my time from the entry that I entered the other day. And you can see here that of the 23 hours approved, 14 and a half of those have already been processed. So that's us loading in some time for an individual or a crew. Now, the next part of this process, and it's been approved through the time portal, the next part of this process is to actually upload that data and upsync it into Nimbus. Now, so we go back, so this could be happening on a regular sort of scheduled job, but for the purposes of me showing you this and how easy it is, we've set it up so that we can manually do it. If I come down into my time portal menu here and click on import time, you'll see there it's just saying, well, what date do you want to import your time till? So I'm just going to say up until today, and that should bring everything in that I've approved. That's never good. So it appears that there's probably an issue with one of the time entries. So I'm going to just go back and check that. Okay. So you'll see that record processed in. So there was an issue with one of those time entries that I'll have to go back and check a little bit later on. So for now, we can come back in here and come into our mobile menu. Now, where this is basically where the data is at, is that it's upsynced into Nimbus and it's sitting there waiting to be committed to the job. So at this point, it's there on the job, but it's not committed. And this allows an extra level of checking around costs, because that's not something that's visible in Time Portal. It might be that you have project managers that are office-based that you might want to check through the data and sign it off. Or it might be that you have an admin team that once it's approved by the supervisor in the field, and they don't need to see it. And so it's just the administration team that will come in and actually sign off and post the time. So with our standard process though, we have this little sign off process here that lets you come in and sign off some of these other items. So where it's come in on previous days and previous weeks, you can see that there's data to sign off here. I've already pre-signed some information off. If I want to sign off previous weeks, I can click on here for all the appropriate users. There's actually nothing there because that's 0. And then once I've done my signing off, I can then post it. But if I want to check it first, then what I can do is I can click on the actual quantity and it lets me look at the time that's come in. So this is Daryl's time. So you can see here that he's got some uncommitted time on a job for Johnson's, and he's also been working on the workshop job. You can see over here, for example, that there is an hour's travel time that will get posted with the travel code and what he's actually done. So that kind of lets us see and check the data. Or, for example, as I mentioned before, if once it gets here, you're happy that it's already been checked, you can just sign it off straight away. So I can sign that from there, and I can also sign it from the previous screen here. Okay. Once it's signed off, it goes through to the posting screen. So here we've got some items whereby plant has been used and where that's highlighted with yellow. So before you can post your time, you need to go in and view and post your costs. So it's, otherwise that can get forgotten. So it pays to do this first. So we can click on this and we can check. Oh, here we go. Yep, Michelle used that Bobcat machine for 4 hours. So am I happy with that? Is that the actual correct information? If need to, I can edit this because I think actually she used it for 5 hours. So you can see that updates it and I can post those costs. Now, when I go back to the time posting screen, you can see that initial cost for that entry up there has actually gone because it's been posted. And I can do the same for these other items too. So, yep, I'm happy with that. Post that. And if I left this one, then what would happen when I tried to post it is it wouldn't actually post the time at all. So I'm going to approve that one as well. Michelle's been busy on the Bobcat machine, but I'm pretty sure she actually was only driving that around for an hour that day. So you can make your adjustments as you see fit. So then basically, once you're happy, you can either post everything on this screen that has error status of okay, or it might be that you want to post sort of like just what's filtered on the screen. So if, for example, I just want to post everything to my silo jobs, I can come in here, filter to that and click post time. So, I mean, it's pretty easy. And now those time entries are actually committed to the job with the prices that I expected. And you can see they're gone now from that screen. And then there's just a few left to process should I choose to. So all in all, a pretty simple process. So I think we're doing okay for time. So what I'll do is I'll just show you how we kind of upsync information to Nimbus, from Nimbus, to the time portal. So if we go, I'm just going to go in here into the enter time option. And if I look up the labor codes here, you can see I've got a bunch of different labor codes. But I might need a new labor code added to here. So the reality is we only want one source of the truth. So I'm going to add a code for a different electrician rate. So we can see here we've got an electrician weekend rate, certified electrician and apprentice electrician. But what I want to do is add one for a electrical supervisor. So because I only want one source of the truth, I could go back to Nimbus. As you probably realize, you can set up your new activity codes in the resource list. Activity codes are those codes that have a section that starts with time. So I'm going to grab my apprentice electrician here, and I'm just going to copy that because that's how I roll. And here, electrical supervisor. Obviously, this is a much higher, it's going to cost us more to employ an electrical supervisor. So therefore, I need to update my pricing. I think I'm in the wrong industry. But there should be an electrician. So once I'm happy with that, I can OK that, and we've got a new activity. So small prayer to the IT gods. When I come in here and I want to upload my activity codes, I can click on here, and this is a manual push to upsync the data with TimePortal. However, this is something that can be set up as a scheduled job, whereby it might happen once a week for job numbers, for example. So you might have thought only one record will be processed, but what it does is it goes through and it grabs all the activity codes and sends them up each time. Click OK on that. So what we do is we set it up so that things that are not changed or added to often, such as travel codes, activity codes, and the plant list, for example, they're upsynced once a week on a scheduled job. But your actual job number list, for example, is something that jobs are added all the time. So we set that to upload every 30 minutes. So now if I come back here and if I was entering time and I look at my activity codes, I should have here my new electrical supervisor. It's now available to the time portal. So yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty seamless, and really, really simple to use. So that's pretty much the time portal as far as a user perspective goes. There are other options available in the admin area, and when people are being added to the time portal, this is done through the administration area by someone who's granted that permission in your organisation, and invitations are sent out via email. So an employee is invited into the time portal with their email address. So everything is hooked up via that, and they're sent a little link on their email to register for the time portal. And then as soon as that's done, they're able to enter their time. So it's pretty groovy. I like it. And for us, for example, when we're connected onto different sites and everything, it's nice to still be able to enter my time if I don't actually have access to my own network, because of course all this is in the cloud. So it makes it really easy. So that's pretty much me. So I'd like to hand you over to Gail. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions or anything brewing. I'm not sure if there's been anything added to the chat, Gail.
Yeah, Lani would like to know, can you add allowances?
Yes, so we can do things like that. So because of course not everyone uses plant, for example, there is a capacity that this can be configured to tie in allowances. So, and even disbursements. So, you know, there are other things that can be added on. So yeah, allowances is an option that we've been asked about before, and yeah, that can be added in, Lani.
Cool. And Melissa is asking, time portal timesheet entry seems to be retrospectively added versus mobile work, which is live with a question mark.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on how often your upsync is done, Melissa. So I can enter time for today, and that's all okay. And if this which I manually ran, if I just hop back here, that import time, if that's set to upsync or refresh on a more, you know, like without it manually being done, but it might be done every hour or something like that, then yeah, I mean, you can have your data pretty current. I mean, if you wanted to, you could have that running, you know, every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It just depends on what you want to see and the workflow that you guys have.
Cool, great. I think Tim is typing a message. In terms of costs, once it's initially set up and the workflow is and the approval workflow is set up for you, it's a very standard product out of the box, as much as we like to make these things now. So there will be a volume for users, so they don't have to be a Nimbus user. It's a time portal user, and we've got some volume price breaks as well. We're trying to make this as affordable as possible for you, and Daryl is the person to get into contact, and he can let you know what the cost structure is. So Tim is asking, if you have an employee working on a job operating various machinery, was there a way to log 8 hours labor and also add 4 hours roller and 4 hours to the digger? Great question.
Yeah, it is a good question, Tim. So yes, you can. What you can do is you can put your 4 hours, if you're posting your 8 hours time, you can allocate one plant against that time item and the hours you were working that machinery. And then what you can do is you can have different timesheets set up. So you might just have a sheet set up to enter plant, or you can go back into the same timesheet, ignore the time aspects, and just enter the plant and the plant hours that you're using for that extra item. Yeah, because essentially that would potentially be the same for allowances if you were claiming more than one allowance as well. So you can add in one thing in conjunction with your time entry, and then you can add more of those just by going back in and either choosing a different timesheet structure with different fields on it, or just filling in the bits that apply.